combination of all of those.
Now, Miss Sallert is the leading musical comedy star of Scandinavia. I will say that for her because she perhaps would be too modest to say so. But I think the very interesting thing to us here in the American Musical Theater Show is the number of American musical comedies that you did.
Yes, I had the possibility to sing most of the big hits over here, for instance, Nelly Forbush, in so specific, Annie Get Your Gun, Kiss Me Kate, and of course Eliza, My Fair Lady.
Did you do, in Fair Lady, you did this in Swedish?
Yes, I did.
What did you use for the equivalent of Cockney? Now, is there a sort of a bad form of Swedish?
Yes. No, well, Stockholm, from Stockholm. In Stockholm we have a special accent too.
I see.
Say the same, kind of Cockney.
I know in Germany they did it in Plattdeutsch.
Yes, that's the same. Yes.
And
Oh,
you have the equivalent of that in Sweden.
Yes.
Well, what are some of the lyrics?
The
you
rain
were doing
in
one
Spain
for me. The Rain in
says
Spain.
the playing.
How does it go?
Before.
Sing a little snatch of it in Swedish.
Den spanska räven river annan räv.
Real Bengt's got it. I guess so. Oh, that's beautiful. There's a story about your coming to Broadway to work with Mr. Preston and Ben Franklin, and I think to kind of point this up, we will ask the conductor of your show, Mr. Don Pippin, to join us. Come over, Mr. Pippin. That's enough. Now, in addition to conducting this show, I know you had a hand in casting it, and I think this is a very interesting point. We've discussed this before here at the workshop, but no matter how great the star, usually the producer wants to have an audition, perhaps just to hear the voice in the theater and so forth, and I think you had to do such a thing.
Yes, I came over for 2 days.
Oh, and I'll never forget it, because I was sort of nervous about it. I thought, well, gee, you know, this great lady of the theater in Stockholm, I said, what's she going to sing for us, you know? And I thought some probably magnificent aria or something.
Did you do some famous Swedish aria?
Some Swedish operetta.
Absolutely superb.
Could we recreate the Swedish aria here for the moment?
Chord.
Hello, darling. Well, hello, darling. Tack och lov att dina vägar är hemma.
Well, yes, she got the job. Which now brings us up to date. We're going to hear a couple of songs from Ben Franklin. So, Mr. Pippin, you will resume the podium, and if we may ask you, Miss Sallert, to assume the stage. Mr. Preston is going to set up, as we say, or tell us about these two songs.
Well, the first song is Look for Small Pleasures, which is a bit of homely philosophy of Ben's, and he sings it to the Countess. And then he exits the scene, leaving her alone in her boudoir, and she sings a less homelier version, and you also, as an audience, get a chance to hear the melody for a change.
Look for small pleasures that happen every day, and not for fortune or fame. Infinite treasures lie all along the way, as the candle just a friendly someone who'll be a husband or wife to you, be the love of all your life to you, and you'll find how great small pleasures can prove.
And the melody came out quite clearly. I thought.
Yes, yes. I guess I heard it every night.
What's the next song, Mr. Preston?
Well, toward the end of the first act, old Ben and the Countess have a quarrel, and it looks as though the romance is over. She says, "Do you adore me, monsieur?" And he says, "Adore you, madam. You're the most exciting woman I've ever known, but I have a job to do, and I don't have forever to do it." And they part on those terms, and left alone on stage, Ulla, as the Countess sings in a ruefully sad way to herself, how laughable it is.
That you always adore, the very one you never can live with, and how laughable it is when your love's not returned. You face a fact, and that's what you'll live with in a lifetime. What a trick of people is human feeling that lets them thrill before the kill, that leaves them reeling. But it is that my heart runs to hug the very love that never can ever be. I have everything my life requires, except the thing my heart desires. Someone who can make me dependent and free. Laughable it is, and the laugh is on
He's pretty wonderful.
Oh, yes.
I don't have to tell you, I'm sure.
I know. How lucky can we be?
There you go. Mr. Preston, I want to ask you some questions about, a little earlier you mentioned, we got talking about actors coming to Broadway back and forth. I think you have a rather strong feeling about the fact that a movie actor should, or do you have this feeling? I think you've been quoted. I check up on your quotes, you see, about...
No, I never tell anyone what they should do. I enjoy the back and forth because, to me, it's more fun, the theater. And I had the movies for a long, long time. And it's marvelous to be able to have a choice. But I do prefer it here. Quite often, in Hollywood, you do a motion picture, and maybe a year goes by before it's released for the public. And you, yourself, you don't want to go see it. Because to you, that motion picture represents the way you acted then, that year. This is why I hate old movies on television. There's a whole generation of kids growing up thinking that's the way I acted then. No, that's the way I acted in that year. I started making those old things in 1938. And it's just a shame for them to come back and haunt you like this.
Well, they probably haunt you worse because you were quite good in them, but the actor always
But that was then.
Suffers the agony of self-appraisal, I know.
My Ben tonight, I hope and trust, is going to be a different Ben from the Ben that he was Saturday night. And you can continue to grow in a role. And this is something you can't do very seldom, and it's a very special case. Do you get to go right through from the beginning of a movie, of story, through to the end. You're jumping around, and it's the director's fun. I remember Marty Ritt, before he went out to do his first motion picture, he said to me, "Why do you keep coming back here to New York?" He meant. And I said, "Well, this is where the actor's fun is, Marty. Out there, it's the director's fun." So Marty, who was a wonderful actor himself, went out to 20th Century Fox to direct. And the next time he saw me, he said, "You're right, stay here." He says, "It's the director's fun."
I want to ask you something else, though. With Hollywood's penchant for not using the Broadway originals, there's a notable exception recently with Rex Harrison. How come they wound up using you in Music Man?
Yes, well, that's one. Rex sent me a wire that had just one word on it. It said, "Thanks." You know.
You plowed the ground for him. Huh?
Well, you generally, unless it's something that you terribly much want to do, you're not interested. You always know that Sinatra's going to play the part that you did on Broadway. This goes without saying. But for the Music Man, I put up a little fight. And that's why I'd given myself a commitment at Warner's, who had bought the picture. Also, the other things I did were quite nice. But I wanted the inside track on the Music Man. But I didn't get it. They were still looking around for people to give it to, even though I was on the lot, until they offered it to Cary Grant. And God love him, Cary said, he said to Jack Warner, he said, "No, Jack, not only will I not do it, but if Bob doesn't play it, I won't even go see it." So they gave me the part.
They gave me the part. The Music Man, now this was, am I correct, this was your first musical, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did this take a great deal of courage on your part to do a musical, not having ever done one before?
Not really. We were all friends, everyone involved in the production, and they had stopped looking for a musical comedy performer and started looking for an actor, because Ray Bolger, for one, was offered the role, and he liked it, and he said, "Now just find 15 minutes in the second act where I do my stuff." And Meredith started to wonder what happened to the Music Man while Ray Bolger was singing "Once in Love with Amy." And the same with Burl. It would be Burl and not the Music Man. So they decided to go for an actor. And our agreement and our understanding was that if very early in rehearsal we saw that it wasn't going to work, we could part company and no one would be embarrassed, and that would be that. But very early in rehearsal it did start to work. And then the only thing they had to do, which is something that a legitimate actor is not trained to do, which you've done so often and so well, is to get down there in one and include the audience into, generally you just try to block that audience out.
Yeah.
But I found a way of doing it with that role, and Ben actually speaks to the audience, so he does bring them in. I just made the audience, excuse me, I made the audience the other half of the town. The people around this side of me was that half of the town, and I made the audience the other side of the street and the rest of the townsfolk. Which worked because they all felt part of it. That's why the rhythmic applause on the 76 trombone march at the end. They joined the band.
Got them involved. You mentioned Ben again. He was a great statesman, inventor, and of course we know him as the author of Poor Richard's Almanac. Do many of the famous quotes occur in the play?
Well, we do have several. One in particular leads to a rousing number. Ben has brought two of his grandchildren over there, one 19 and one 8. And the little one has just overheard Beaumarchais tell Franklin that Philadelphia has fallen to the British, and this is their hometown. And he said, now he's a kid that's trying to do his bit too, but he says, "Grandfather, I have nightmares. I'm scared. If they've taken Philadelphia, they had to go through New Jersey. And that's where my son Bill, his father, was the governor." And I say, "Come on, Benny, smile a little." So I don't know how many times in my almanac I've written such good old-fashioned but never outmoded sentiments as half the battle is learning to smile, to hold out your chest, to lift up your chin. Half the battle is picking up the pieces and starting over again. And the kid and I do it to a great, tremendous showstopper.
About time to stop our show. Our thanks to Mr. Robert Preston, Miss Ulla Sallert. Come in, my dear. Workshop, join us. Thank you so much.
That's been a pleasure.